Welcome to another episode of Shake Sales. I'm your host, Maggie, the sales evangelist at Mailshake. And today I'm super excited about our guest, Jan from Pleo. So just kind of give you a little bit of background about Jan. Jan started in sales a little over 2 years ago and is now one of the top 25 AEs to follow on LinkedIn. And like I mentioned earlier, he's an AE at Pleo. And how I kind of originally found Jan and why I'm super excited about this conversation is when I was looking at his LinkedIn profile, right in his tagline was talking about crafting meaningful outreach, which is the topic of today's discussion. And I love this because if people have heard me talk before, I'm in the sales engagement space. That's the software we sell at Mailshake. And my day-to-day is talking to customers about how we can make outreach a bit more meaningful. And I love talking about the relationship side of sales here too. But Jan, thanks so much for being here, and I'll let you introduce yourself too.
Yeah, Maggie, thank you so much for inviting me. What an intro. I definitely do not feel like the top 25 AEs out there, 100% not. But it's great to be here. I have a lot of things to learn. I'm just in the beginning of my career, but I'm also happy to share some of the things that maybe haven't worked that well that I've learned, but also the things that maybe helped me to get to my number and even above that. So thank you so much for that nice intro. And yeah, looking forward to start this conversation with you.
Yeah, this meaningful conversation.
Exactly.
But yeah. Awesome. So yeah, like I said, I did some LinkedIn profile stalking on you about meaningful outreach, and you talk about it in cold email there too. So I'm just curious, when you are crafting these cold emails and you have that in mind and you have this relationship mindset to sales, what are 3 questions, you should ask yourself before hitting send on a cold email?
Yeah, I think it's a great topic to speak about. What I understand on a meaningful outreach, it's basically 2 things. And then I have one bonus question that I always ask myself. The first one, is this actually relevant? Like, is the message that I'm sending, is that relevant to my persona, or to the person that I'm trying to get in contact to? Because I think that's the number one marker that we need to be aware of when writing an email, when reaching out to anyone, even over the phone. So does that actually make an impact into the day-to-day? And a good way to figure that out is if you don't have a product marketing team, is to just ask the people. That's what I've been doing in my first company. I just asked them, listening, how does your day-to-day look? And then I would understand how my personas actually work and feel. So that's the point number 1 that I'm trying to figure out. Practical tip, to understand if things are relevant or not, enroll your own people into those sequences if you're selling into sales, right? That's what I did in the beginning. I enrolled my own head of marketing and would ask him if he would actually resonate with that.
That's awesome.
Into my entire sequence, right? So that's point number 1. Is this actually relevant? Mm-hmm. The second one, which is in my understanding a part of this meaningfulness, is personalization, right? Mm-hmm. And personalization is a very, you can call it a buzzword, I would say, but we need to understand that personalization is multi-level. It's not about you, Maggie. Personalized can also be about, your company, or things your colleagues have been posting, right? So personalization can be really something that connects to you or your company, your industry, and so on. And that's point number 2. Make it relevant, make it personal. And then I think if you really want to, the third question that I always ask myself is am I writing as I speak? Right? Would I, when I send out this message, when I would read it out to my little sister or my little brother, would they get it? Without any pauses or ams or question marks, would they understand that flow? So when all these things are ticked, in my opinion, I'm very good to go and send it out. And then I've already spent enough time on that one email and can focus on the next. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And you do something that I feel like is a bit brave as someone who, has been an SDR and an AE before of enrolling someone at your own company into your sequence, which it feels uncomfortable. Like if your persona is reaching out to a VP and you work at a big company and, you enroll your own VP of marketing, like what were you scared to do that at first? And how did that turn out for you?
No, I just took him over a coffee and said like, listen, I want to test it out if it works. I would just enroll you over the next 30 days. I'm going to enroll you full into my sequence. And you tell me the point when you actually would answer or when you would opt out. And it was super valuable to me because he said exactly like this, where this email is too long, this is too short. Of course, it's not representable, right? But it gives you another indication of feedback. And if the challenges that I would be addressing are actually connecting to the day-to-day problems that we need to solve. So this would solve the relevancy challenge. And I wasn't really afraid. I was more like, man, I'm going to give you more meetings. I'm going to increase your conversion rate. So you better help me out on this. And he was super helpful in that situation. So I can only recommend that. Of course, ask for consent before, but I think every marketeer or every persona would be happy to help you out on those things.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think it goes to show, what type of rep you are as, you're not afraid to do those things. And it's another piece of feedback. And I think we get nervous sometimes being SDRs or AEs of getting that feedback. Like we sometimes don't want to listen back to our own calls or we don't want to have our manager do that. And I think it's brave to do that and great advice for other people out there because I'm guilty. I never did that when I was first in SDR at the first company I worked at, but looking back, I wish I did.
Yeah, and I think it comes down in the end. I think it's a key understanding. It took me a lot of time, especially now when you were as well as like, you are on an eye-to-eye conversation as an SDR or as an account executive. You're really on the same level, right? Even though you speak to the founder, even though you speak to all those VPs that have maybe 30 more years of experience. In the end, it's a conversation from me to you, from Jan to Maggie. And we want to, help each other out. So understanding that you should be yourself, is a big learning as well I had. And I think this is connected towards enrolling a person. Like, go for it. The best thing you can get is actually feedback and learn from it. And maybe in the end, book those 2 more meetings that will get you into accelerator land, and be more successful within your role.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You bring a good point of like, just go for it. And I think sometimes we have all these playbooks for cold outreach. I'm sure that you've given frameworks on your LinkedIn profile, let's say, 6 months ago that may need to be reiterated now. They might need to be changed and things like that. So, I think that's also a topic of conversation and just advice that I would give people in the SDR role is, don't be afraid to test different things out, whether it's reaching out to your marketing manager and sending them emails or, testing out things in your copy, because what's worked for me 3 months ago doesn't work for me today when it comes to doing outreach too.
100%. Don't get too overwhelmed with testing though. I did that once and then your results already turn upside down. Be mindful of your testing. Give yourself some time and then you can get far. But don't test too much. You're already doing it very well probably, but you want to get to the next step. So keep the things that work, make them better, make them more efficient, make them more scalable, and then focus 20-30% of your time to do those extra things. Do the funny meme, do the other video, or whatever your tech you want to actually try. Yeah,
absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, and that brings into our next topic of discussion here of talking about video and I saw from your profile that you've created over 5,000 outbound videos. So what are some tips, you could give the audience about things that you've learned from recording those videos?
I think the first learning is pretty obvious, but it's really hard, right? You in the beginning you start when I remember vividly when I started and I had the goal to do 10 videos in an hour. I remember that, and after an hour, I only had done 1, and I was like, "Oh my god! Like how can I justify that?" I could also call or send emails, so how can I make it scalable? And I think that's tip number 1. Try to go under 1 minute and keep it short and sweet. Mm-hmm. So the way to do it is to first have like a talk track, maybe not a script, but a talk track on components you want to do, right? You want to have an intro, you want to have a problem statement, just like a cold email. Then you want to pitch the value, and then a soft CTA, right? So that's tip number 2. Have a framework, a talk track to start with, because you need that in the beginning to get going, because you need to build that muscle. Tip number 3, never rewatch the video. Just don't do it, right? You know,
Really?
done it once. If
Wait,
you start like reanalyzing your flaws, you will get, you get into a rabbit hole and actually will never send out the video, because you will like, how do I look? How's the, whatever I said, unless you made a very big mistake, right? If I would call you Peter right now, then I of course wouldn't send a video. I've done that. And then people would say, like, listen, Jan, my name is Maggie, but thanks for the video, right? So don't rewatch the video, in my opinion. Just send it out and then go to the next one. And then I think the third or fourth tip would be to pique curiosity, right? The biggest goal of the video is not to get an answer, because you will get it eventually, but to get it clicked on, right? So you need to make it frictionless. A good thing, if you have your phone on LinkedIn, you can directly record a video on your phone and send it to the persona in the chat. You can do that. So that's like even one less touch point to actually click through on the video. And another one, if you do it through Vidya, Tolstoy, or whatever tool you use, zoom on the profile picture of the prospect you want to do a video for.
Yeah.
And then, zoom on their face, because it becomes quite irresistible if you see your own face with a video that you don't click on it. So these would be my tips to get started.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think you touched on a good point there of, the goal of having a video in there is for someone to click on it and watch it. So you brought up some good points of how to do that, maybe like zooming in on their picture, because that would spark my curiosity, like, why is he on my profile? Like, what is he going to be talking about in this video? And I know it's personalized, because there's no way that he could send that video over to, let's say, even my colleague at Mailshake. It would only be to me. But I'm curious, like, when do you, because like you said, video does take time, a bit more time than maybe crafting an email sometimes, and especially a personalized one. When do you typically introduce that in your, prospecting or in your outreach?
Yeah. It's a very good point, and there's a study about it from SalesLoft, where we've seen in Europe that it's usually the third touch point where video is most efficient in a sequence, because you need to build a bit of familiarity to actually have someone click on a video, right? So you would have first maybe a LinkedIn Connect, then we would have an email, maybe a second email, and then a video email. In a sequence, I would suggest. But I think for me personally, the most effect I've seen with video is on LinkedIn, right? Because there you already have an environment that's more laid back. You can be a bit more flawless, and you actually increase the possibility of someone clicking on it, because it's frictionless. It's a less friction. You don't need to open the email. You have it directly there. So I would really suggest everyone to start doing videos on LinkedIn. I get prospected a lot right now for some whatever reason, but I've never received a personalized video. I think I received it once in 2 years. And this just shows the possibility of the space we have here. Yeah. So that would be my tip.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said LinkedIn. So Mailshake, we talk a lot about deliverability, and that's a lot of what I post about on LinkedIn. And having, like, I always tell people, hey, if you want to do video, do it obviously later in the sequence if you're doing it with emails, just kind of like you said. But then also just skip that completely and go to LinkedIn, because there's no spam filter with LinkedIn, really, unless you are spamming people and then they shut you down. But yeah, it's like you don't leave it up to chance of like, is this video going to get filtered into the spam folder? So for two reasons, you're right. It's a social platform, so it's a little bit more like accepted maybe than versus an email. And you also can't get really locked into a spam folder by sending it over. It's always going to reach their inbox.
Yeah, exactly. Exact point. There's nothing worse than doing the best video in the world and then
Yeah.
it lands in the spam folder. Connect with the persona on LinkedIn. Ideally, they have LinkedIn. You can actually connect with them. Of course, there are cases where when it's not possible, then you could also ask if you could forward the video to them. Could also work through a colleague. But LinkedIn, in my opinion, with video right now, at least as we speak, maybe change in a couple of days or weeks, is the way to go.
Yep. In October 2022.
Exactly.
Awesome. Yeah. So this is definitely shifting gears. I don't even know a good intro into this next question, but it still has to do with, meaningful relationships. And we talked about meaningful outreach. But Jan, I saw a post of yours again in kind of my stalking of how you specifically teamed up with an SDR of yours on I think a plan to do outreach. And it was really cool. Maybe we can link it in the show notes here on this episode. But yeah, that relationship. So a lot of people talk about, having a good relationship with their SDR as an AE and vice versa. But I think it can sometimes be hard to foster. So, and that post was a great way of showing that you've done that. But how do you foster that meaningful and productive relationship with your SDR?
Yeah, I think I had the privilege to be an SDR by myself, right? And I had the privilege also to work with really good account executives that always valued me. So I had a good upbringing, So, and I think that is key, because you need to understand the world of an SDR to be able to merge with them, right? And I really see them as they're not meeting bookers, they're strategic partners to a business, but also to me as an account executive. Like they are responsible for 30% of my yearly target, right? It's, they are my backbone. And the specific way on how I foster this relationship, speak to them. I gave my SDR, Anna, my phone number. And whenever there is a question, objection, she calls me directly. And we speak about it, right? And in the end, it's about building a relationship. So in the first meeting, we didn't speak about anything. We just spoke about the personal goals in the company and the fears. Like, what are you afraid of, with that role? How can I help you overcoming those fears? Where do you want to go? So really building a good relationship. And then it comes down a bit to the tactics as well, like the planning. So we always have a kickoff meeting at the beginning of the week on a Monday. We sit together half an hour for an hour to just go through the accounts that we want to go after this week. I always prepare 10 to 20 accounts, give it to her and said, like, listen, this is what I'm going to do. This is what you're going to do. And I expect you to follow up on that. And during the week, we, chat twice, 3 times a day on the phone or in the meetings that we have, and follow up on that. And on a Friday, we usually do the roundup, speak to the things that we've learned, how the meetings went, and what answers we got. And this is a bit the rhythm of, how we try to, achieve great results together. Bit of an overview.
No, that's awesome. It's, a proactive relationship instead of maybe a reactive one. So you're, giving your phone number out, you're saying, hey, let's talk about these other things. You're setting up goals for the week. And you're, thinking about it as the strategic partnership. They're not just someone who's booking meetings for you or an appointment setter, which sometimes they get called. I had gotten called that when I was a BDR and an SDR before too. And it's like, you're on the same playing field, and it's easy for you to do that because you were an SDR before them too. So you know how it feels. So you can almost kind of take that as advice of, hey, I don't want to feel this way, or I don't want this person to feel this way, or maybe a way that I felt, or things like that. And I think also in remote work too, it's good that you gave out that phone number, because I think sometimes as SDRs, it's a pretty lonely world out there. And it's maybe the first corporate job that they've ever had. And, that could feel really, really scary to someone. And specifically, I know you're doing this job of fostering that relationship, but is that something your manager has like a piece in too of having that relationship fostered between SDRs and AEs?
Yeah, of course. So what we do, we are split in verticals, and every account executive is sort of managing or leading a team of SDRs, and that's like called their pod. So everyone has a pairing. We just focus on a specific vertical, right? And then we get together. Last month we met the entire company, and we went to Croatia together. And then of course, as AE, you sit together with your SDR, right? Because that's your team, right? You go out for a drink and you have fun together. Now we're going to visit them hopefully in Lisbon, because that's where they're all sitting. And, so we really try to actively foster those relationships and just try to help them understand how important their role is. Like, just a specific example today, the entire company of Plio is cold calling, right? So our CEO flew down to Lisbon to the academy. And so far, I think now it's like 5 day book, I think 150 meetings in one day, right? In one day. So this is the importance of the culture that we have here in the organization, where we put the SDR first. And we really value them and want to enable them to work as efficiently as possible, and exactly see them as strategic partners and not as those meeting setters as other companies or other cultures have brought us up with.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. It's kind of just reminding them of the work that they do. Because with any role, it's really easy to just kind of put blinders on and, show up at your computer and say, hey, this is what I have to do today. This is my job, whatever. But when you actually look at it from a view of the whole company, it's like, hey, you all set 150 meetings today. That's huge. So I love that. That's so super cool. But, I know we're coming up on time here. And I really, really appreciate you coming on here and talking about these, meaningful relationships, and all the way from cold email to relationships that you have with your SDRs. What's maybe like one key takeaway you'd love listeners to hear from, what we talked about today?
Yeah, I think the most important thing I would say is, if you're an SDR, and that's the advice I got from Kyle Coleman by myself. He said, like, as an SDR, if you're going to master that role, take time, because it can take you anywhere you want to go in life. Whether it's becoming an account executive, whether it's becoming a founder, whether it's becoming a CEO at one day, the things you learn will shape you for life. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging, but the things you will learn, you're going to take you in any role. And if you master those skills, you're going to be most likely very, very successful. So enjoy that role. AE land is a different land, and everybody glorifies it, but it comes with different challenges. So take your time. And the way to be successful in an SDR role is, in my opinion, is to build those meaningful conversations, those long-lasting conversations, by being relevant and also have a high focus on personalization. That's my take.
Awesome. Yeah, you packaged it so well together. Couldn't have said it. Yeah, that was amazing. And Jan, before we finish up too, where can people find you to learn more?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in Stockholm, I love rowing. It's my passion project on the side. I'm not good, but you can see me on the water. If you want to row, please join. Otherwise, of course, you'll find me on LinkedIn. I'm very happy to, come into conversation with you. Follow up if you don't get an answer. I'd like to answer you. Or send a video. Nobody has done that so far. If you want help, find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Okay. If you want to get in touch with Jan, he will definitely probably respond to a video. But awesome, Jan. Thank you so much for joining me today. But we'll catch everyone next time on Shake Sales. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Maggie.
Bye.